All right.
Okay, recording in progress. Hello, everybody. This is the Nickie V Smith Show. All right, we are having a little bit of technical difficulty. Bear with us and give us a few minutes to find out what is going on here. Okay. Now, here we are, folks. This is the Nickie V Smith Show. Thank you for showing up today and being here as our guest. Today's subject is a very, very sensitive topic, so get ready. It is it's something that has been going on for ages, from the beginning of time to now. And what we need to get ahead of it. And we have some special guests in the house today. And instead of us having a panel, we decided to have a talk about. Like some people have a walkabout, we're having a talk about. As parents, as survivors, as in order to get ahead of it. Okay? And to my knowledge, this is one of the first shows I've ever seen, not to say that they're not out there, but this is one of the first ones I've seen that talks about getting ahead of sexual abuse, as well as introducing our families and letting them know that sexual predators are out there. They are out there. And it doesn't matter how much you don't want to talk about it. That doesn't stop the act of violence. We've had people that have told me, hey, I don't know how to talk about this. Well, that's what we're for. That's what the Nickie V Smith Show is about, which is featured every Monday, 2 o'clock. You can talk, you can listen, you can fill in your comments. We are here to serve you. We are not only here to serve you, we are here to help as an advocate. We need to get ahead of this. This is an ugly problem. Now, for you that don't know me, my name is Nickie V Smith. I am an author and of the #1 best-selling book, Self-Healing for Sexual Abuse Survivors. Thank you, Reese. Today, we're talking about folks that are tired of just surviving. It's time to thrive. Just surviving only says, whew, I got through it. That doesn't say a thing. Let's talk about growth. Let's talk about moving forward. Let's talk about warning our children, not frightening our children, but making them aware of their surroundings and let them understand that no subject is too bad or too deep where we cannot talk to our children about it and they can't talk to us. Don't put them in that position. And just to show you that I walk my walk, I talk my talk. I have my son here with me. My son is Wallace DeMaurier. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, baby. There's a part that I feel that I've learned. My son is my best friend first, #1. I have 2 sons. One is named BG and Wallace DeMaurier. BG had to work. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here today, but I want everybody to shout out, my baby is important. So I want you to know that he's, yeah.
BG.
Now, I want to say that I made some mistakes in parenting. We all do, especially when we become first parents. And we don't know exactly what to do. So we're doing it by ear. And my son, I feel, and he said this to me, I feel like I should have told him earlier. I didn't know how. And I didn't know what to say to him as far as him finding out that I had been raped and beaten and impregnated for 5 years by my own father. And that my father used a wire hanger to abort the baby, leaving me to bleed out. Half my family don't deal with me, don't like me, and that's okay. Because I wouldn't shut my mouth, and I'm never going to shut it. I'm here to help others. See, that's the choice I made. The weapon of choice I decided was self-love. I deserve loving me. I deserve loving that young man. I deserve being a great mom. And I deserve to move forward and help somebody else. Now, I have some people, other people here in the audiences, and I'd like to recognize them. So I would like for you to take the time. I have Sandra Johnson. Sandra Johnson is a retired family therapist. Let's give her a hand. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
She is also an author. She is one of the best people you're ever going to meet, and she's very honest. She's going to tell you what she experienced as a therapist. I have a young lady here. I'd like for you to go ahead. I'm going to go from there, but before I go there, anybody I leave out, I'm going to ask you to identify yourself. But first, I want to welcome my beautiful co-host, my cousin, my friend. We are together on the self-healing advocacy. We've developed it. We developed a show since the book has come out in 2021, and her name is Risa. We please give her a hand. Hey, Risa.
Hi. Clapping for myself.
To help me so that my boy wasn't up here all by himself. Ed Wheat. I love Ed Wheat. This is Risa's husband. And last year I drove that poor man crazy. Just trying to but I love him. He hung in there anyway. So let's give Ed Wheat a hand.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple more people here. We have, I'd like for you to introduce yourselves and please unmic if you have been, if you're muted. Excuse me, guys. If you're muted, now is the time to unmute yourself so that you can introduce yourself, please. Go ahead. What is that? Kiana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kiana Shaw. I'm an author, speaker, and coach by trade. I own a training and development company where we teach youth, young adults, and blue-collar workers personal development skills to connect to their professional skills. I also run a company of 22,000 moms who are raising teen daughters, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Okay, we have Nigeria in the house. She is muted. Hi.
Can
you turn your camera on?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Okay. How you doing?
Hi. Fine, thank you.
All right. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Temi Tayo, and I'm Nigerian. I love what Nick gradually becoming a part of the show.
Yes, she is. She is our newest team member. She is. We have her here. She is going to be working with us on grant writing.
You.
and help building the team. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Could you tell me the correct, unmute again, I need to know the correct pronunciation of your name, because I'm not very good at this time of breaking it down the way I should.
Okay, it's Temitayo. But you can pronounce the first four letter. So that's
Okay,
Timmy.
okay, Tammy.
First four letter, that's Temi.
Okay, let's go with
Yes.
Tammy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have
You're
a
welcome.
Nicole Carey in the house. Nicole, I need you to unmute and I need you to bring your camera up. Your picture is
wish I could.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could bring the camera up, but I'm actually driving.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
okay. No, you do.
You keep your hands on the wheel and be safe, girl. We love you for coming in. Nicole, can you introduce yourself at this time, or would you rather just listen? What would you like to do?
I can give a brief introduction so that I can concentrate. My name is Nicole Curry. I am also an author and lupus advocate primarily, but I also assist Sister Kiana with her group. It's Mothers Raising Teen Daughters. I'm one of her co-admins because I've been mentoring youth and young adults for something like 25 years, maybe.
Okay.
So that's it. Good to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's give her a hand, guys. Okay, now we're going to turn it over in a few minutes, but I'd like to give you a little bit more history on myself. Kiana, I really hope that you and I can work together in the future. I'm looking forward to growing. I've been doing this for 44 years, since I was 25 years old. I'm 69 now, okay? However, I was low key. I never decided to do a show until now, okay? Last year we put out Self-Healing for Sexual Abuse Survivors, and who are tired of just surviving, who want to thrive. And since then, we're doing a talk show every Monday at 2 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. Also, I have at one point in my life, my son, Wallace DeMaurier, got used to people being in our house. You know what? I'm gonna take a minute, rest my voice, and let my son talk. How about that? Let my son talk. I was telling them about how you got used to coming home.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a bunch of people there. I was feeding, I was sharing and healing with them. And Kiana,
Listen, yeah, I thought we lived in a hotel. She was always taking it. She didn't take in like stray dogs or stray cats. She took in straight people. So it was nothing for me to come home and be like, oh, okay, well, guess they live with us. And the funny part is, we didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't even know that until I promise I didn't even know that until I got to college and realized, oh, wait, we didn't have money. But she just has an amazing heart, man. Like, what do you have, like 75 godchildren, something like that?
70 plus. You right. I think it's 75.
My last count was 75, but she would just take people in. Like, she's the one thing I will say for sure about my mother is she is an advocate for people who don't have an advocate. So I've always kind of looked at it as though once I found everything out, I was like, well, nobody was there for her. So she is there for everyone that she can possibly be there for. So that was pretty common to come home and just find her. And like, I go to school and come home and be some people there. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, it is what it is. But she would just help people get back on their feet. One of my favorite things funniest things though, is to come home and the furniture be gone. I'd be like, what? Did we get robbed? And she'd be like, oh no, they needed a couch. I'd be like, Mama, we needed a couch. But she'd rather get another one than, somebody without. So that used to always be funny to me. I'd be like, oh, Mama, we need.
You need the couch.
That's actually true, Risa. She gave away all our furniture, and I was like,
I believe you. I believe you. That's
I
me.
like furniture, so I give it to folks that need help. And we just be and got it broke in where it feels good. And Wallace would say, here we go again.
oh, Mom,
Well, she didn't give away the important parts, Wallace. She kept your bed. She kept your
right.
bed. She kept, the refrigerator, and she kept, the stove. She
Yeah.
kept the really important things, right?
Yes, she did. She did. There was always food and somewhere to sleep, but it was funny. Like,
and she didn't find a way to give away the bathroom. So you guys, you were good.
And I think I picked that up because like my first car that I ever got rid of, I was just like, I wanted to give it to somebody who needed it. So I found like, a mother with some children. And I was like, yeah, I can never get the actual value of the car back. If I sell it, somebody's gonna give me, $1,000, whatever. It'll do them a lot more good. So that's something that I definitely picked up from her, because it was commonplace in our home. Like, somebody needs help, okay, she's gonna try to help them. So.
Thank you, baby. Thank you. I love you, boy. Oh, I ain't no boy, y'all. Let's keep it real. Okay, I believe in being real. Okay, I'm going to turn the floor over right now to Risa Wheat. Risa's going to act as a mediator for us. She's going to ask questions. And she may ask you, she may ask anybody. So, Risa?
Okay. Okay, so from age 12 to 17, Nickie was raped and beaten repeatedly by her father. She shared all of that. And she told Wallace at some point, but she feels that she should have told him sooner. So, Nickie, when did you tell Wallace? How old was Wallace when you told him?
Yeah, that's a good question. Lisa, I don't really know. Let him answer it.
Okay.
I was 17 when I found out. Okay. And what I did was I found her original notes for this book. She started them years ago. It was almost like diary entries. And I just remember reading it and being like, wait, what? What? Wait, what's happening? No, I'm not. What is this? Like, I couldn't figure out what this was. And I had heard from an uncle that my grandfather used to drink and he used to beat them, but this was an entirely new level. And so when we talked about it, we had a very heart-to-heart understand. I mean, I was very angry reading it. But I was also torn because it was like, my whole world, it was just shocking to my whole world, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was the original notes for this book, actually. She just had jotted down a lot of stuff. She had an old notebook. And I just kind of stumbled upon it one day. I don't remember what I was looking for, but when I found it, I just remember we talked. Like, it took me a little while to even ask her about it, because I was just trying to process everything I was reading and what is this? And like, wait, what? But then when we talked, she just told me everything and she let it out. Yeah.
Nickie, okay, so Wallace, you were 17, and that's a pretty heavy load for a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Nickie, what age did you think you should have told him? I mean, 17 seems reasonable for that heavy load.
Well, that's now that I'm looking at the pattern of predators, stats will say one thing in my research, that predators may start at 11 years old and work their way up. But I'm finding more and more stats that are countering each other. My youngest that I found so far has been a baby, an infant that still nurses with a bottle. And this predator had this baby sucking his penis.
Mm.
This baby is not even a year old. This is my recent research. So I'm going to say that I think we should start as young as possible. And I would say 5 years old, if they are able to understand, because we're sending them off to daycare, preschool. And I think when we start talking ahead to get them ahead, we should tell them the difference in the right words. Use penis, use vagina, the touching. Where should you be touched? Now, if they're not in diapers, and no one, and the keeper, the caregiver doesn't have to change their diapers or wipe them off, then that's a different thing. But if they have no diapers to be changed, there's no need for someone to touch them down there, unless they have a problem, and they should be free enough to go and talk to their parents about it. They should be able to say, Mom or Dad, I'm hurting down here, so that they can investigate it. But if someone touches them, Mom and Dad should have an opportunity to talk to them ahead of time, so that they can be aware of certain touches and certain behavior patterns, not to frighten them, but in a delicate way, so that they are familiar. I mean, so they're watching their surroundings, if that makes sense. Children, okay, go ahead, Ed.
I noticed that Wallace is over there and he's been questioning. I think that what you're saying are two different things. It's one thing to make a child aware or an individual aware of a situation in the family. It's another thing. What you sound like you're actually getting at is the communication between you and that child. So that you're listening to the child, you're reading the child, you're getting those indicators from the child to go and react to what the child is dealing with. And Wallace?
I want to say something to everyone, but to my mom in particular. You know, when I learned it at 17, that was honestly the first time I'd ever heard of anything that sick. I couldn't even imagine that. Well, I'm full grown, man. I've met a lot of people that this has happened to. And one of the things that I found that I'm still baffled by is how much the family tends to rally around the predator, the victim as the bad person. So, Mama, I want to say this to you publicly. We are great. Okay. I've seen how your family did you. So my question back then was, well, why'd you let me meet him? Why did I know him? Because that's where the confusion came, is because he was super nice to me, but now I knew why I was always his favorite and he would do anything, you know what I mean, in the world for me, but she wouldn't ever let me be just like alone with him or anything. But I get it, Mama. I see how much pressure they put on you. Of course, you get older and you go, man, I shouldn't have caved to that pressure or whatever else. But it's a really weird psychology where they rally around the predator and they demonize the victim and say, just shut up. Just put it under the rug like all of us do. Right now, they still act like this man is some incredible hero. You know, like I blocked over half of my family because they were sending me birthday stuff for him. I don't care about his birthday. And he's been dead to me for years. I had a funeral in my head for him because that's, you know, it's probably the only way that I won't put him in the ground myself, is to have a funeral for him. But please, Mama, I want you to forgive yourself for letting me meet him, because what they did and the way they treated you, and I get it, and it's psychological it's psychology that starts when you're a child. What happens in our house, you don't tell anybody what happens in our house. What happens in our house stays in our house. You don't say anything. So when you get to be an adult and everybody else is cool with this person and they're saying that, you're trying to just, okay, I'm trying to go along with this until you can't hold it in anymore.
Mhm.
So I am perfectly fine and I love you and you are a phenomenal mother, but I need you to forgive you for that, for me meeting him.
And she took steps to protect you.
Yes, yes.
You know?
Even when you wouldn't, if you couldn't be over there, Hilma would be with me. So I was always good. But I now see it. I've seen it more times than not. As a matter of fact, and again, my mind can never grasp this concept. I've seen far more people rally behind the predator than to help the victims. And I just can't make sense of it, but it seems to be pretty common.
And Wallace, I just want to ask you one question. Did you ever feel that you were in any kind of danger from your grandfather when you were around him? Okay.
Honestly, he was, and this I hate saying this, he was the sweetest old man in the world to me. Like if I made the basketball team and the shoes were $125, and Mama was like, I'm not getting no $125 sneakers. My dad was like, are you Michael Jordan? You're not Michael Jordan. I'm not paying $125. I called him. He was like, all right, I get him. Cool, no problem. He was super, so that it was shocking to me because he was so nice. He didn't drink or anything. So he was a church deacon by the time I met him.
And that's
you know what I mean? So, but that doesn't sweep away what you did. That doesn't sweep away the horror and the trauma that you caused my mother and your other children. That does not stop the fact that you were a monster. And you've never even been man enough to apologize, to talk to anybody about it. It was just, oh, well, I stopped drinking. I'm not that. So everybody should forget it. No, I'm not forgetting nothing. I'm not. It's not going to happen. So, Kiana, I'm sorry, that was your name?
Risa, you got a hand, and I want to come back to Ed whenever we can.
Okay, Kiana, let's hear your thoughts.
I have so many.
Jump on in.
As a survivor and now warrior, for people who have been sexually violated as children, one of the things that I was hearing in what Wallace was saying is that, everyone's rallying behind the predator. And one thing that helped me was hearing a friend of mine say, if they didn't know, there would be massive outrage instead of massive cover-up. And that helped me a lot to hear that, because not that they necessarily knew what was happening to me at the time, but it had happened to someone else, right? And so it wasn't that it was unbelievable. It was, we stood behind the first one so hard that we absolutely can't stand. But you know what I'm saying? The first one, we was like, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. So we can't admit anything in the second one, because then we got to go back and apologize to the first one. Exactly. And to your last point, Wallace, apology is an admission of guilt. And when people don't want to admit guilt, they have a tendency to deflect, right? At all times. They won't apologize. And when we are waiting for the apology, we are doing a disservice to ourselves, because they can't. It's not in them. Another thing, one of the things when you said, someone said that, teaching caution versus fear, and that has been a balance I've had to do with my daughter, and giving her body boundaries, even when it comes to me, right? Like I don't get to touch you just because I'm your mom. May I fix your bra? May I help you with this? Even so much so as when she was little or younger, because she's only 9 now, but she's very clear with people. when she steps back. If people ask for a hug, she'll say, no, I'll give you a high five.
Okay.
Right. And my standard for her is speak to everybody. You don't have to hug anybody.
Okay.
Right. And that is how we establish body boundaries with our kids, because adults will get so offended as if the kids don't get to have a voice. And as someone who didn't feel like I had a voice, I make sure that my daughter gets one, and that she feels powerful in it. And so when people, you'd be surprised the number of adults who will say things like, oh, she don't like to hug, or they'll try to guilt trip her. Oh, well, because you don't like to hug, I'm not gonna, and I step in and I make them deal with me. Because if she said no, that's her right.
Very good.
And there have been times when she goes, Mommy, she's so pretty, but I don't like her spirit.
Mhm.
And that's something she would say at 4 and 5 years old. And so I didn't know what this subject was today, so forgive me.
Oh, you're doing great.
You're doing great.
But I think that as a community of people, we have to get used to standing behind our children, no matter what. And if they come to you later and say it wasn't true, or it wasn't all the facts, or maybe, then you can apologize, but stand behind the children. I don't care what the situation is. I recently saw a post and a lady said, my husband was found not guilty, right? About over a sexual abuse. And I commented, I said, not guilty is not the same as innocent.
That's correct.
Because 10 years later, there is no bodily fluids. 10 years later, there is memory loss of the event. 10 years later, there is still emotions that stop you from speaking. So being found not guilty is not the same as a person being innocent. And we have to give our kids voices, and we have to listen to those voices.
That is absolutely
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The reason I had the funeral for him is because I did know. I was like, you know what? He's never going to apologize. He's never going to be a man about it. So, and this may sound weird, but the part of me that loved him before I found out had to have the funeral in my mind to mourn that part. But then the man who's like, nah, you should probably never see me again in life. You know what I mean? So I had to combine the two. And I've buried a few family members, to be honest with you. Like, when their actual time comes, I will not be there, because I've already buried them. I've dealt with whatever emotions I needed to, whether it be a weird kind of mourning, an anger, or whatever it is. That was like my therapy for me. Like,
and a lot of people cannot do that. A lot of people can't separate how they feel about the image versus how they feel about the real life person. Regardless how you feel about Bill Cosby or R. Kelly, there's a real life image, and then there's a real life person, and they don't always match.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely true. Ed, did you want to say any more?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Risa, I'm sorry. Let's after, I'm sorry to keep jumping in, but we're gonna do this sometimes. Kiana, go ahead and finish, and then Risa, I want you to recognize a new.
I'm done.
Okay, you good? Good. Then we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a newcomer that just popped in. Would you go ahead and welcome her and open the floor to her so we all can meet her?
Sure will. Hello, Angela Birdsong. How are you? Are you there?
Your mic is on.
Angela? Okay. Well, I think Angela will pop back in a few minutes. So
okay.
You're muted, Angela. Okay. Well, Ed, did you have another point that you wanted to add?
Well, I'm hearing this, and like I said, my main thing is the communication with the child. We had several instances with our kids growing up. This